week, especially. Rack this up for me, Jack. Let's see. Cut 06, AX06. Rack that up here. This phone call to Reverend Al Sharpton this past week.
We got it.
Because I started thinking about rational thinking and just critical thinking. And, you grow up, you hear people say, well, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I always thought, oh, yeah, there is. First off, that's a dumb statement because there are dumb questions. I mean, there truly are. I mean, just stop and just think. But this lady called up Reverend Al Sharpton to ask about a rumor that's been floating around. I've never heard the rumor, but apparently it's in some circles of life. And Reverend Al Sharpton, keeping it real, cleared up the rumor for us. But listen to the question and just stop. I mean, just stop and think. Really?
I never got a clear understanding of Trayvon's heart. Was it actually given to Dick Cheney or was it not?
No, I don't know anything. I don't think they gave Trayvon's heart to Dick Cheney, no.
Did they give it to anyone?
As far as I know, his heart was not donated to anyone. I've not heard that from the family at all.
Unbelievable.
But I know Dick Cheney didn't get it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I'm finally cleared up.
And that's thank you for your call. And see, that's another thing. They put out outrageous rumors that people don't know right from wrong. That's why we need to stay right on these stations and give information. Because people innocently can be misinformed, not trying to do anything but get the right information because you get inundated by these people that just sit around just fantasizing all day long.
All right, so as the story goes, Trayvon Martin was shot in the chest. Start with that. And seriously, do you think that – I mean, what? So when it comes to just rational thinking and critical thinking, the lost art, I mean, you got to laugh, but at the same time, it's a real person. Just I've got to call a radio station, first off, because we know everything. And say, hey, is it true Dick Cheney got Trayvon Martin's heart in his heart transplant? What? I wouldn't even, well, yeah, I would have put him on. I would have put him through. Yes, I would have. But when you hear someone like that, what's your first thought besides, whoa, public education, followed by what?
Adds variety to this whole mundane life that we have.
Yeah. I mean,
the more the merrier, because everything else we say is just as insane.
But that just hit me like, you've got to be kidding me.
Right.
But they're everywhere. Apparently those kind of people are. You deal with people like that on your show?
All the time.
Well, I mean, so when you hear someone call in and say something, not literally like that, but with that angle of just, whoa, you're thinking the society is going forward, or we're back in the Paleolithic era, or does it even register with you?
No, it does. We understand that. We know, for example, that when people gather who have relatively good jobs, good incomes, they have good educations, higher educations. I love that term, higher educations. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that they can converse about is the weather and Dancing with the Stars. Mm-hmm. You know you have a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do prefer the voice over Dancing with the Stars when it comes to shows that would be on TV. But, yeah, I know exactly what you mean as far as deep thinking. And no one's really paying attention right now as far as the presidential race goes or this, that, and the other. I mean, it's just not on anyone's radar. School's almost over. Summer's coming up. Do I have enough money for a vacation? Which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you need to pay attention. But it's hard for some people, you know? I mean, there's an example. You think this might be true, the rumor of Trayvon Martin's heart going to former Vice President Dick Cheney?
I'd like to suggest that maybe we ask ourselves, why bother?
With?
Anything other than what pertains to us. What do I care what she thinks or says? If it's true, what difference does it make?
Right.
If it's not true, how does that change my life? The way I see that type of broadcasting, that's taking time out of my life that I should have been dedicated to doing something with my wife and my family, my job, my career, what I want to do, things that maybe benefit society. Why am I giving this person any credit? I'm giving them currency.
Time.
I'm giving them my currency, basically, when I do that.
Never thought about it like that. That's interesting. Hey, Ron, welcome to the Elvis Polo Show on KFAQ. How are you?
Peachy. Matter of fact, I just told Jack that you just with your statement there a moment ago, you busted my bubble, or burst my bubble.
What statement was that?
For years, I have been using KFAQ as the learning channel. And you just now indicated you guys don't know everything.
Well, no, I mean, we know a lot. We really do.
Yeah.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. There are a few things we don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Well, that was. I just want to let you know that I'm sorely disappointed.
No, don't.
You admitted that, and
don't be disappointed.
And so, at any rate, well, I was talking to Jack earlier, about an interesting show, perhaps that you all could put on, something that would have a benefit to society, even with the title, All Things Ruger.
Well, that's not a bad idea. That might, we could sell that one. You can bet that. We could sell that. 12:16 now at Talk Radio 1170 KFAQ. 12:19 at Talk Radio 1170 KFAQ. It is the Elvis Polo Show, 918-460-1170. That's the phone number. Text message by texting 61749. Make sure the content of the message starts with the word KFAQ. 90 for the high today, and it's Super Moon Saturday night. 10:30 tonight, you'll be able to see the moon some 16,000 miles closer to Earth. And, of course, some, think it's Armageddon. Joe Cristiano, host of Liberty Talk Radio, is here. How did you've been doing a podcast from your home for a long time, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you decided to hop into the big world of terrestrial radio. But what made you start after working your, normal 13-hour day as a civilian? You retired and you're just sitting around, you're bored, it's what, a podcast or the bottle? I mean, how'd this thing happen?
It goes back a little while. You see, I decided I was getting sick. I was a sick man. I had a sick mind. I knew I was sick. I knew it.
Well, you're in the right place, brother. And you picked the right station.
I understood no one.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch television because I didn't understand television. I couldn't stand nothing. It was driving me crazy. I was going nuts. I was becoming a recluse. Decided to go to my primary care physician. I hate that term. What happened to doctor? Went to go see him, and I told him my problem. He said, yes, you didn't have to come here. I could have told you over the phone. You're a sick man. I'm going to get you to a psychiatrist.
Really?
Right, yeah. So I went to a psychiatrist, and I walked into this guy's office, and he reminded me of a descendant of a Nazi war criminal. He had these small glasses, beady eyes, never smiled, hated this guy. I couldn't go to anyone else because he was in my network.
Inside the network.
Hate the network.
Right.
Hated my doctor. I knew then this was not a good start.
Mm-hmm.
He studied me for weeks. He came to the conclusion that I was a sick man.
Yeah.
I said, why, you already knew that?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Let me backtrack. When I walked in, I noticed he looked like a descendant of a Nazi war criminal. The first thing I looked for was a microwave oven. He had none. In his office, I felt a little bit more at ease.
Yeah.
He said, Joe, or Mr. Cristiano, he used to call me. He said, you're a sick man. All the tests prove that. He said, have you ever heard of bipolar personalities? I said, yes, I have. He said, well, you don't have that. I said, thank heavens. I feel so relieved. He said, you have quadrupolar
So you have more. You have more than one or two.
Quadra, I
According
guess
to this
four.
guy.
Four.
Yeah, it'd be
I said,
four. Yeah.
What is quadrupolar? He said, it's bipolar times 2. I said, I didn't ask you for a math lesson. So he said, I said, how do I cure myself of this stuff? He said, I can do either one of two things.
Mm-hmm.
One, he said, And what I would recommend is that we put you in an institution for 3 months.
Lock you away.
Lock me away.
Wow.
We pump you with all sorts of medication, turn your mind to absolute mush, and then you'll be able to function in this society as we know it today.
So a frontal lobotomy, in other words.
Exactly.
90 days, a frontal lobotomy, and you're off and running.
Didn't like that at all.
Right.
I said, what's option 2? He said, get yourself a job. I got to work. He said, yeah, it's good to keep your mind off your mind. And he says, not only that, but you can talk to other people. And I suggest you tell everybody about your problem, and eventually, in years to come, you'll be healed, most likely. I said, I'll take option 2. He says, now we're going to ask you to leave. I said, the hour's not up yet. He said, yes, but you haven't paid your bill in 3 weeks. I said, good, now we're even, and I walked out.
All right.
So here I go. I walk out. I said, I got to find a job. I'm not qualified for anything. So I said, well, I'll go to Walmart. Walmart hired me. I figured they'd be one of these greeters, with the carts. I said,
yeah, right.
Looks like a great job. Meet lots of people. I could tell them all about my problems, and I'll get well. I could function in society once again. I gave them the carts, but I figured this is not working because when I start talking, they walk away from me, so I decided to accompany the people with the carts. And I go shopping with them, hand in hand, talking to them. This didn't work out. Worked out well for me. Didn't work out for Walmart. Their sales of $14.2 million a month went down to $6 million, and they fired me. They attribute all their loss to me. I said, this is not good. I'm not getting well. I need a job. So I went to one of these places where they hire for cash, do menial jobs, digging ditches. I did the same thing, dug ditches for a while. But I have to talk to these guys. These guys were afraid of me. They'd walk away. They start losing jobs. I got fired again. I got depressed. I said, what else is there? Here I am. I'm wandering the streets. I have no money, no place to go. It's cold out. My clothes are dirty. I stink. I haven't taken a bath in 3 months. I used to walk around in expensive neighborhoods because they have swimming pools. And swimming pools have chlorine.
Yeah.
And chlorine would clean my clothes and give me a bath at the same time. How efficient. So I would wander around and look for a house with a swimming pool, dump myself there middle of the night, and get up in the morning and leave before they notice me. And let me tell you something, that chlorine takes the stains out of your jacket. Always works.
Was that here in town?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had no money. I couldn't go anyplace else.
Right.
So after that, I starving. I didn't have enough money. I was begging. I said, what else could I do? So at that point, I decided to become a radio talk show host.
Holy cow. No kidding.
Yeah. Exactly what happened.
How many years ago was that?
6 years ago.
6.
And I'm not well yet. Now, this is my objective here. You see, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to rant on the radio, and I'm going to ask people to call back in, call me, and be my therapist. I figure eventually someone would have an answer, and eventually I, too, could be sitting down watching Dancing with the Stars, actually enjoy it, and speak to my friends about it for hours, and think I'm actually accomplishing something.
Try the voice. I think it might work better, because you used to sing doo-wop back in the day, right?
I sang doo-wop when I was a kid. I come from Harlem, and that's why it sounds this way. You see, Rodney Dangerfield came from New York. He came from Long Island. I came from Harlem. I sang doo-wop in the 50s, and I talk like Rodney Dangerfield. People say, you sound like Rodney Dangerfield. I said, what do you mean? I get no respect. Are you kidding me? You know? In fact, when I walked in this place the first time, I walked in. The guy came up to me, he says, here's a mop. I said, what's the mop for? He said, as far as I'm concerned, you're already washed up. Get out of here. I got no respect. In fact, my dogs don't even respect me. I go home, they jump all over for my wife. They're so happy to see my wife. My friends, they give me the finger, My dog, I go home, they give me the paw. I got no respect at all, none whatsoever. It's depressing, I tell you that.
Did you know Rodney?
What? No, of course not. No, I didn't know Rodney. But then I get accused. They say, Joe, you sound like Louis Black. You're imitating Louis Black, and it's a lie, and I can prove it. I can tell you why it's a lie. Because Louis Black was born in 1948 in Maryland. I was born in 1943 in New York. I'm older than he is. I've met him. He's a nice guy, but he's a young punk. He stole it from me, but I let him talk this way anyway.
Do you do any kind of show prep before you go on, or you just?
I can't think.
Yeah. So you just the ramblings of a madman. Is basically what.
That's what my doctor says.
Yeah. Right.
So,
but has this helped you though?
What?
Talking to people on the phone or just a stranger you're walking up to, and you kind of do one of those and explain yourself to him.
Well, the thing is, I have no rational way of evaluating that.
No, I mean, well, how do you feel though? I mean, has it helped you? Do you think?
Quite frankly, I've gotten worse.
You have.
I've much worse. Yeah. I don't know what to do now.
So I suggest you not show up here alone.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea.
You know, as an example.
Yeah.
But you are a smart man though. And I don't know if it's because of your illness or if it's, I live in a weird world and I just find you fascinating. Maybe you're the sane one and the rest of us are just a bunch of walking pant loads from hell that don't know
don't understand anything. I turn on the TV, don't understand what they say. Turn on talk radio.
So were you that way as a kid? I mean,
well,
yes. We can go back and remember when we were like 4 or 5 years old.
People ask me, they say, when you're not talking this way, how do you talk? I talk my New York accent, try to get rid of the accent. It won't go away. It's part of my fiber. So now I talk like, yeah, that's when I was a kid in Harlem. That's what it was. But you know what happened? I'll tell you why. People ask me honestly, they say, why do you think the way you do? Why do you think the way you do? And I used to give them this long philosophical answer about I was felt unconfident, I was sheltered as a child. I was brought up in New York. I got beat up. And you're in New York, when raised in New York, when you know what it feels like when Mount Rushmore is coming towards your face at the speed of light and it hits you and you wind up hours later somewhere else underneath the L, in a different area. That's New York. I got beat up a lot because I was a young punk. I didn't belong to the gangs. But I used to give this long philosophical reason why I thought this way. And then just a couple of weeks ago, it dawned on me. I was brought up in an ethnic family. Real ethnic. Italian. Now, the only one in my family that I really enjoyed was my Uncle Louie. My Uncle Louie, he belonged to the big organization. I mean, the big one. The
Yankees.
The big one, yeah.
Play ball.
They international,
Okay.
One time he came to visit my house. My son was just born. He had to see the firstborn of the family. I said, Uncle Louie, what are you doing these days, He says, I work for the Shoeshiner Syndicate. And that's the God's honest truth, the Shoeshiner Syndicate. I said, oh, Shoeshiner, it sounds really interesting. Yeah. I said, what do you do there? He says, well, I take care of people. I said, oh, you're in customer service. I'll never forget what he says. Yeah, that's nice, And, my point being, my family was so Italian that Italians could do no wrong. Everything was okay. They didn't make an excuse. Oh, it was a mistake. He stabbed that guy. Must have fallen over. Must have tripped on something that some Irishmen threw on the ground. I mean, it was always a reason. Always a reason. Now, my sister bought into that. I never understood it. And I realize now the way I think today is the way I thought when I was a kid, but wasn't allowed to. Because everyone was thinking, everybody, the whole neighborhood. I lived in an Italian ghetto, if you will. Yeah. Everyone thought this way. And I thought they were all nuts. But they were trying to convince me that I was nuts.
They just bought into it.
Yeah.
It started, domino effect, and everybody just went on.
I did. But I never really bought into it. I artificially bought into it. But I said, that's not right. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. They say, oh, the Italians, this, and that. I go, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
And then I would yell at me, what's the matter? Stupido, ingiranda. Yeah, I used to get all that, I said, hey, forget about this, So I stopped doing that. I stopped. I suppressed it for years. I used to work for a big multinational corporation. Had a good job. I used to go to meetings. Same thing. Everybody would be talking about a subject. And I would be the only one saying, I don't know what they're talking about. I honestly don't know I don't understand. I used to ask a question. I used to get in trouble. I'm literally getting in trouble for asking a question. And because the hierarchy was such, it drove me nuts. Yeah. And every once in a while, somebody would walk in who was of the proper level. And I had a good job. I reported to the controller. Would come in and in less than 15 words would clear everything up. And go, oh, that's wonderful. And they leave. But that's the way I was thinking. But I wasn't allowed to. And then after a while I said, hey, you're nuts when you think everybody else is crazy and you're right. I said, this is an exception. I think most people are nuts. They don't know how to think. I said, I'm going into talk radio, period. And that's the God's honest truth. What happened. And I've been enjoy doing it. A few of the I have Cristiano's creed of Liberty Talk Radio. Mm-hmm. I make no one wrong. Person call in, I don't care what they say. The only thing I will do is ask them, how did you arrive at that conclusion? Mm-hmm. Can you explain it? I'm not certain I understand it. I'm totally nonpartisan. This station is for everyone. If anything, just think about it. You're out there to get me well, okay? You're my therapy, right? I don't want to preach to the choir.
Yeah, right.
I'm nonpartisan, totally nonpartisan. Or as General Salente would say, I'm a political atheist.
Okay.
I used to tell people, oh, yeah, I'm a libertarian. Didn't know what that was. I had one guy tell me, you're one of those lesbian guys, lesbian guy, libertarian. I know you guys are libertarian. Yeah, you're a lesbian guy, aren't you? You like to prance around the street. Why don't you clean your underwear before you do that? You're disgusting. You're all disgusting. Get yourself fixed, man. I would get answers. I'm kidding. I would get answers.
Oh,
that
I believe
way.
You. I believe you.
I said, I can't do this anymore.
We've had
so
conversations
now,
with some.
Nobody, because people they label. There's going to be no labels on my show. And by the way, this is non-sectarian. If you call up and I don't care what book, what religion you start quoting, I'm going to say, thank you for calling. I appreciate your listenership, but you need to call Reverend so-and-so. I can't discuss that. The only time that I have received super hate mail, and I mean hate mail that you wouldn't believe, that would scare the Jesus out, is when I even broach religion. Not talk about it, but even get sort of like glance, like when they say a shooting star is going to pass by, that it's going to be only 4 million miles away. Mm-hmm. Hate mail comes piling in. I avoid it like the plague. There's going to be. We're not going to talk about issues.
Yeah, so you don't do the religion angle. You don't do Roe v. Wade. The president's speech in Afghanistan to the troops.
Don't care.
And on and on.
Don't care. The reason for that is that if we are not thinking properly, if we are thinking like I used to think 30 years ago,
right?
What good is it to know what the president said?
Right.
It's like you have this beautiful race car. You're putting an old automobile engine that's all sludged up, and you can say, let her rip. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Man, we are running so late. I'm fascinated by what you're saying. No, sit right there. 1233 at Talk Radio 1170 KFAQ. It's the Elvis Polo Show. Joe Cristiano, the host of the Liberty Talk Radio tonight, 7 to 8, and then tomorrow morning, 6 to 7, sitting around with us.
Republican, Democrat, I label nothing. I will not even mention the name of an individual unless I have to give them credit. I will say, our political leaders. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get on this Obama kick, because once I say Obama, or once I say Cheney, or once I say Bush, whatever the case may be, or Democrat, Republican, they place me in a box, bingo, and they say, this guy is a right-wing, moderate. They put me in a box, just like my family used to do.
So you're not ideologically colored.
No, absolutely. Right. There should be none. You see, my family did that. If you listen to my father, he was a wonderful person. He was incredibly generous. Mm-hmm. And the way he treated other people, it's amazing what he did. You would think that he was the most unprejudiced person in the world. But when he spoke, he had a point score system for every nationality in the world. It was
really?
comical. Oh, it was comical. And,
yeah.
I'm surprised he lived so long, because we used to razz him on that all the time. But even when it came to Italians, it would go something like this, He would talk about somebody who was Italian. I said, Dad, he's Italian. Why are you talking about? Yeah. He's from a northern Italy.
But
that didn't
they don't eat a fish.
And then if you spoke to somebody who came from southern Italy, he's from Rome. No good. They're no good, If the guy lived in his apartment building,
right?
I swear, in his apartment building, went to the same school, everything's the same. You go, why are you criticizing? He's on the fourth floor. They always box everybody, no matter what,
So when you see that on television, it's not just made up.
Yeah,
it's true.
Oh, absolutely.
Right,
I mean, and so you have to understand, this is my whole background. Sure. This is what I had to fight out of, and couldn't figure out why. Even in business, I could not figure out. The solutions weren't solutions. And every time I said, I don't understand, I would literally get chastise.
Well,
but not understand.
now in a situation like that in business, if the answer to your question would be because that's what research shows, or that's what research says.
Oh, that's oh yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So I mean, would you understand
no,
that
no,
and say okay?
I'm just talking when they talk.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this will be a great idea, JB. And what do you mean it's a great idea? Based on what?
Based on what?
You know,
Right.
I, for example, where I worked, installed the first basically intranet, I think, in the United States.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Really?
It was called. I forgot the name of it. Prof something or other. And it was remarkable. We got these computer things. You put it in, and you could talk to anyone in the company. It was amazing, you know. And they had a 6-month review. We all got together, you know. And of course, guess what? I was in disagreement with everyone. Didn't say anything. So this gal gets up. She was one of the managers. She was hot. I have to say, she was the only gal that was really hot, you know. Anyway, she could say anything, get away with it. She could have said, you know, that, you know, she could have said anything. But anyway, so she gave, and she was in the IT department. She told everybody how wonderful it was. It wasn't wonderful. It was actually a waste of time. In practical terms, it was a waste of time. I raised my hand, and I gave her several examples. I said, I asked, I said, how did you arrive at your percent productivity gain?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody went nuts. She couldn't support it. I don't know where she got the numbers. This was fine.
That's a valid question.
Yeah,
right.
Couldn't support it. I mean, couldn't even come close to, couldn't even give me an area, you know. And I said, but let me give you a few areas that I think we are losing productivity. And I listed specifics, you know. I was called in, and I tell you, I won't go through the meeting, but I almost lost my job.
Oh, wow. Because you questioned,
yeah,
just out of curiosity.
Yeah,
not trying to be an ass
about
it.
I said, I'd like to know where we had. I said, I have an experience that here's the problems that I have had thus far, and it was blasphemy. But this is the same type of thinking my family had, same type of thinking that's in business, but it permeates in politics more than any place else.
Yep.
The problem we have is two people are talking about two different items, two different issues, and they're trying to prove the other person wrong. And in my program, I make no one wrong, and there's no sides.
So do you come to a conclusion?
I hope we come to an understanding. And it could be me. I could say, good point. Never thought of that. Taking that in consideration, now I could agree with you. Very, very difficult to do. It took me.
It is difficult to do. You're right.
It took me 30 years, and I knew I arrived when my boss, who was a young, you know, typical up and coming, 6'4", blonde hair, blue eyes, you know, typical big corporate guy, you know, and he's a nice guy, Stevie. He was a hell of a nice guy. And we went to a meeting, and he walked into the office. Never forget. Slammed the door shut, sat down, and we were real good. I mean, very friendly with one another. He sat down and leaned the chair all the way back on the against the wall, and he just stared at me. I said, "What do you need?"
Yeah.
He said, "I have one question." He said, "How do you do that?" He asked the question that I asked 30 years prior. I know I'm getting chills saying that because it's the truth. My hair's. I asked the same question 30 years ago, and I went on a quest. Why can't I think that way? And the problem is that little skit that I went through, the first part of the program, although, you know, I made up a lot of it, it's a lot of fun, it's the truth. It is the absolute truth, colored in comedy. And that's what I want to do in this program. I want people to say, I don't want to tell them what to say or what to think. I want them to think. If we don't do that.
That is so difficult. For so many people.
Incredible.
And it goes back to the Reverend Al Sharpton phone call that he got. Is it true that Dick Cheney got Trayvon Martin's heart in his heart transplant? You have got to freaking be kidding me, man.
I would have answered, no, he got Elvis Presley's. Next
Just
call.
as well.
You know, why don't I mean, my problem, too, is why are we even talking about, you know how much time we spend talking about countries that 99% of Americans can't even locate on a map. If I said Syria, Syria,
I've got it on my car radio. I've got Syria radio.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. Some people would say, "Yep, got a new car, got that Syria radio in there."
Yeah,
that thing rocks.
Saigon, Jersey. I mean, they have no idea, and yet they're talking about
gone. Where'd he go?
And they talk with authority. This
is
why,
they do. You're right. Speak
I needed
with authority.
psychiatric counseling,
Yeah.
and I still do.
Right. Well, don't we all, my friend? Joe Cristiano, he's the host of Liberty Talk Radio tonight, 7 to 8 tomorrow morning, live from 6 to 7 on Talk Radio 1170 KFAQ. Radio 1170 KFAQ. We're completely out of time. Joe, thanks for being here. We'll see you tonight and tomorrow morning. Have yourself a great Supermoon Saturday night, and keep the faith.